So this is part 2 in our Lasting Legacies series, Reflections on Living and Learning with a Serious Illness. And for those of you who might not feel that you have it in you to write a whole book, you may be interested in the creation of a simple yet meaningful letter. I'm delighted to have with us here today Frish Brandt to show us the process of creating a legacy letter, or lasting letter, as she calls it. Frish Brandt is the founder of My Lasting Letters, and she calls herself a letter midwife. With careful listening, intuitive questions, and heartfelt conversation, Frish helps people find the words to form their letter. She's been providing this service to anyone interested for over 5 years and has written over 100 letters, helping others express what is deep in their heart. Frish, thank you so much for being here, and I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Naomi, Alexa, Mary, and everybody else that's here. I'm really honored to be in the circle and really honored to be part of a program with Susan Sandler. I just want to say I'm so glad that out of her slow living practice that, Susan, you made time for us. That was very generous. You have such a history of philanthropy that I don't think it should go unnoticed that even with your diagnosis, your philanthropic practices are in place and in practice. So thank you again for sharing all of that. It's a wonderful lead up to what I'm going to talk about in terms of, as Naomi said, if you're not ready to write a book, maybe you're ready to write a letter. And normally, if I could see all of you, which I can't right now, but maybe in the chat or Q&A, you can tell me some things about some of the letters that you're thinking about writing or the role that letters play for you. Usually when I'm in a group, when we used to be in groups at tables, people would say, oh yeah, I have a letter. My mother wrote me a letter. It's the most important thing I have. Somebody else told me, I looked everywhere for a letter. I was sure he would have left me a letter. And I am convinced that everybody has a letter in them, more than one letter, and that you have a letter in you. And so what we did ahead of time in preparation of our time together is I did a letter with someone in your circle, Dan Dunnigan, who I want to thank so much for participating with us. We wanted to demonstrate the process. Often people say, well, how exactly do you do that? So, well, I'm going to show you. But what I would ask is, besides simply passively watching this, I really would encourage you to have a pencil with in hand and just make notes. Some of the questions may lead you to think of questions, or it might cause you to think of somebody that you'd like to write to. So this is just to inspire you and to share with you. And after that, we'll talk about it. And I will welcome your questions about the process, how it relates to you, how it relates to your loved ones, how it relates even to people that maybe aren't your loved ones, people that you're estranged from. I will say that in the letters I've written all kinds of letters. Thank you letters, I'm sorry letters, I need to tell you something letters. That's why I'm convinced everybody's got a letter in them. So with that, we're going to launch into the video. I'm so delighted to write a letter with you today.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Tell us who you want to write a letter to.
I want to write a letter to my grandfather from my mother's side, Charles T Burke, and Grandpa Charlie, we call him. But he was a big influence on my life. And
in what way was he an influence?
He was like my father. That my parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and he was a steady influence. He was very, very disciplined, very strict, and he taught lessons, but every lesson was like a life lesson. I think I might have been the 3rd or 4th grade, and he said that he was going to see if I could come along with him and help him sell his horse and this other Irish jaunting cart that he purchased in Ireland, this town of Killarney. And he said, would you want to come up if your grades are okay? Can you help me on this little trip up to Washington here? And I was able to make my way out of school, which I was happy about, actually. And then, you know, I remember going up to his place up in Occidental, and the day we left, it was like 4:35 in the morning, maybe earlier. It was really cold. And he goes, come on, get up. We got to get going. And I was like so upset. It was just me and him. And it was pitch black up in Occidental. And he goes, come here. And he hands me this thing to go down and get the horse, like the reins, like the bridle. And he goes, go down and get Trolley and bring her back up here. He goes, I got to go get the horse trailer and set it up. He goes, can you do that? And I was like, sure, I can do that. Because I was ready to punish myself. Maybe I get kicked by the horse or something and I'll get him back, you know, 11-year-old mind. And so I go down there and I'm putting the bridle onto Trolley, and I finally got it on. And he comes down and he goes, what's taking you so long? You know, he goes, I will kick you harder than that horse. Get that horse out of there and get up to the, I'm thinking, oh my God, is this ever going to end? You know? So we make it up, we get the horse into the trailer. We got the gate closed and it's still somewhat dark, and we're finally on our way out of there. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be one long trip, you know. It was one of those experiences, those lifelong experiences that I could always go back to, and overcoming the fear of something, and that hard love, I guess, if you will. You know, it was sort of a, you know, but he was a gentle soul as well, and had a lot of different lessons in that sense. But anyway, we ended up going up to up past Seattle, into Kent, Washington area, and then he sold the horse. In fact, I have a quick photo if you'd like to see.
Please, I'd love to.
And in that photo is taken at the polo fields. And,
oh my goodness.
But that was the horse we sold with the buggy. And that photo had made it into the San Francisco Chronicle. It was kind of exciting at the time.
That's great. You check in with your grandfather still. He died, when did he die?
He died 1989 or 1990. Yes, I was in my 20s for sure.
Okay, so you kind of have this ongoing rapport with him. He's a presence in your life. What do you think you've never told him about your feelings towards him?
You know, I don't think I told him that how much he's really had an impact on me. I don't believe, you know, I ever said, you know, hey, you know, I love you, Grandpa, and that kind of thing. I just never had those opportunities to say that. I remember I would give him a call every now and then, just telling him some of the things that were happening at UC Berkeley at the time, and I was having some academic issues, and he would, you know, be like, you know, keep swinging and keep up the good work, and it was just a positive, just a 5-second conversation when needed.
How do you think your relationship with him was different than your mother's relationship with him, since he was her father?
Yes. Well, my mom, who's still alive, and my dad's still alive as well. My mother, she had a really strong relationship with him, and he he would come in and he would always bail her out if she was having any difficulty. You know, because when she divorced my father, I was 5 years old, 1970, and my grandfather was he stepped up, and you know, he stepped up when nobody was stepping up, and he stood up and did what he had to do to help her, which essentially helped us as well. And that's the person he was. You know, he was very generous in that way. He would come down to our house and he would say, you know, you working? And I would be like, oh my God, you know, I'm, 14. No, I'm not working. And he's like, why not? Get a job, get your money and bring it in and put it on the table. And that's the way he was raised. They worked and they brought their money and they put it down and they put it on the table.
What do you think guided him, or what were in brief, what were his kind of guiding lights or rules of thumb that made him the man that he was?
Well, his family was hard work. He grew up in the Mission District. And it was, he had really strong parents. He was working when he was 10, 12 years old. He and my grandfather had my great grandfather was a blacksmith. So he had a shop in South of Market, but he grew up in the city and county of San Francisco, and his earliest jobs and his earliest memories were, he was driving like horse wagons around and delivering kegs of beer to wherever out in Ocean Beach. And I think he was born in, I want to say 1911, somewhere in there.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
There he is right here.
Yeah.
And they have that little pony.
That's
but
great.
There's my great-grandfather there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking up saying, what are you doing taking a photo? Get out of here.
Yeah. So you have a son named Will. How old is Will right now?
Will is 15.
15. Okay. So if Grandpa Charlie and Will and you were sitting in the kitchen, what would you want Will to learn from Grandpa Charlie? What do you want to pass through you to your son?
Well, having respect for yourself, having respect for others, showing discipline, and remaining calm, trying to remain calm in situations. Don't be the person getting excited. Stay calm, and just being kind to others, and always had something to say positive. And he was very devout Catholic. He would always tell me and my sister and brother, and he would say, keep your shoulders to the wheel, best foot forward, and the good Lord will do the rest. And trying to live by those words, for the most part, we've been pretty successful. Mm-hmm. And we try to maintain the steadiness of it all. He would love Will, he would just be in heaven. He's in heaven now, but.
Right. So, so Will was born after Grandpa Charlie died.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well after.
If you could give him something, what would you give him now? Well,
I would give him a good look in the eyes, and I would say, I'd say, Grandpa Charlie, I miss you so much, and how I wish you were still here. Yeah,
thank you. That's good.
That's what I'd say.
That's exactly the feeling we want you to have. Because he was influential to you, Dan, Do you feel like he saw you in a way that other people, adults and teachers and whatever, did he see you in a way different than other people?
Well, he, I'll never forget. I had my report card. I think it was sixth grade, and he goes, can I take a look at that report card? And I'm like, I don't know, but I gave it to him, and he looks at it, and he's going down the line. He goes, okay. He goes, there's a couple things you need to work on, obviously, but you got to work at it. You got to work at this. He goes, you get these good grades, you can be whatever you want, And he would say, you could be the president of the United States if you want. If you got to work at it. You got to believe in yourself. And he would give me different books to read, and one of them was You Can If You Think You Can. Is that the one?
The Power of Positive Thinking?
That's right. He gave me that book, and he goes, here, read this book. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I would read it, and I'm like, and that was his way of just, besides his other, Grandpa Charlie-isms, the school of old hard knocks, there was some, he was a pretty smart fella.
Can you remember something that's happened in the last few years where you thought, I wish I could talk to Grandpa Charlie about this?
Well, I think as a former firefighter, I always try to make it through on my own. I always try to get through things on my own, and I usually do. But there's times when, after I had my surgery, and I was off from work, and I was just wondering what's it going to be like to go back to the fire department, and which I ended up going back light duty, but I was not able to go back to my position as an engine operator. If he was around, it would have been, probably someone who would have been able to just say, here's a couple of things to keep in mind, and it goes back to shoulders to the wheel, best foot forward, and the good Lord will do the rest. But I would talk to him about the surgery and the change in careers that I've had, and just some things with my mom that's happened, some of the stuff that's been happening with her. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of health issues that she's going through, and anyway.
You're lucky to have a grandfather like that.
Yes.
We carry these people with us, and they actually are kind of ageless. There's very few people that we see on a really extended timeline, and that we can kind of parse that out. But just thinking the quintessential grandfather, Grandpa Charlie, and just imagine if you were a grandfather. But let's just say Will has a child, and you're holding that child, and you're being you, but being you may involve channeling Grandpa Charlie or not, since that's who we're talking about. But you're holding that child. What would you want to be sure? Maybe something you learned that you want your son to always know and your grandchild to always know.
Yeah. Well, I would want them to know that they're safe, that they're loved, that they have someone they can count on. They have someone who's going to have their back. They have somebody who is going to be there through, not just through birth and up until kindergarten, but those other grades thereafter, and that show up. Someone that's going to show up, and they need to understand that they can be whoever they want to be. They got to, you know, they're as good as anybody else, but they have to work at it. They got to do the work, but they have to have the confidence to do it. And that comes through trial and error, and learning lessons through one's failure. And it's okay to fail, but you learn each lesson from those failures.
Yeah. What do you think Grandpa Charlie would say about the pandemic? I mean, look at this. He was born in time. He lived through.
Yeah, he lived through the Spanish flu.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell us every now and then how bad it was, and we were like, it's just another, Grandpa Charlie story.
Are there any things you wish you had asked him?
I know I made a lot of mistakes over some earlier years of my life, and I probably could have used his advice on some things. And to this day, I look back in time and the crowds I used to hang out with, and I would pull away. I would pull away from those crowds, and I'd find a church somewhere and regroup. And it would always start off with finding a church and going in and praying and just regroup and just reassess. And I would always have to take myself out of whatever equation I was in and find something to get me back on track, which I thank God I was able to do. Thank God. And that was from my grandfather. That was from him. Yeah.
And I would imagine with, some of the recent challenges and changes, like you said, with your career changing. I mean, these are things about identity. We go through multiple identity, not necessarily crises, but evolutions in our life. It's a crisis if we resist it. So it sounds to me like Charlie imbued you with a few tools to help you migrate from being a firefighter to working on in a lighter format there, and now being a substitute teacher. If Charlie came to you in your dreams, what are 3 things you'd tell him that you do because of his influence?
3 things would be, I get up really early in the morning, and I start my day. And I start it with purpose, hopefully a little bit of purpose. And then I try to give something back. I try to give something back to 2nd graders and 4th graders the last couple of weeks. That all stems back from, believing in oneself, to be able to, find the right way, find the answers through, getting up to the plate and swinging, keep swinging was something Grandfather would always say, keep swinging.
So, because this will have to be edited to fit in our lovely evening together, what I'd like to do now is pause. We'll part ways. We'll turn off the recording for a little bit. I'll work with your words, and we'll reconvene as if on a cooking show, as if yes. The bread rose, or the soup marinated, or the liquid reduced, because it is a reduction. And
Yes.
We will circle back in just a little bit. So Dan,
Yes.
the way this works, it's a collaboration, or really I'm just your medium to get to the letter that you want. And you have been gracious to volunteer to do this in front of this wonderful circle of people, so that they can witness one of the versions of this process. It goes something like this, and you can interrupt me at any time, or I can read through it and we can go back and you can say, that's not really what I meant, or that's not that important, or you got that all wrong.
Okay.
Or I want to say a little bit more about this. So this is what I've got in the time frame that we allotted.
Yes.
Grandpa Charlie, ever since I was a little boy, you have been with me. I don't think I ever told you what a huge influence you have been on me. So now feels like a good time to write you a letter and thank you. And telling you something that somehow I don't know that I ever said before. I love you, Grandpa Charlie. You always had my back. Your guidance, your life lessons, they have stayed with me. Yours was a hard love. I still remember that morning in Occidental, or was it still night? The cold shower, your instructions to go get Trolley, the horse, bridled, and how I was bucking at your request. But you know, I learned so much from you all through my life, and that was just the beginning. And that Spanish flu, you would tell us how bad it was. We thought it was just another Grandpa Charlie story, and we would say, no way. We couldn't imagine that when something happened in 1918, that it could happen again like it is happening now. But like you taught me, we're keeping our shoulder to the wheel. You taught me so much, and you gave me so much. You taught me to believe in myself and the power of positive thinking. I carry on the gifts you gave me to my children. More than anything, just as you showed me, I want them to always know that they're loved, that they have someone they can count on, and that someone's got their back, that someone is going to show up and will keep letting them know they are extremely loved and cared for. Regardless of what happens, we're going to have their back. Like you taught me, they can be whoever they want to be. They're as good as anyone else. They have to work at it, and they are loved. Like you would say, keep swinging. So now, now to you, your reactions, your thoughts.
I mean, you know, it's just amazing how, you know, to even imagine even being in this position with UCSF and to have the ability to write a letter that I never thought could ever happen. I'm just, again, I hate to say 1,000 times, but I'm so thankful and grateful for everything, because every day is a gift. Every single day is a gift, and as everyone knows that has gone through all of what we've gone through here, you know, it's you take it one day at a time and do the best you can, and you live each day, and you try to leave it a little bit better than when you found it. You always try to leave it a little bit better than you found it. And that's another thing that he had mentioned to me many times. You know, leave it a little cleaner, leave it a little, you know, but it was just, you know, always give more, take less. And that's how he lived. And that's how I'm trying to live like that as well. But that's a beautiful letter. Wow.
In this process, it's like gardening, and you till up all these different memories. And if we're lucky, it makes us grateful and feel a through line in our lives. And sometimes it turns up unfinished business and things we need to sort out or get clear about or find peace about. But either way, ideally, it connects us to who we are and how we got to be who we are. I always tell people after we've worked on a letter, be really gentle with yourself now. You know, it's kind of like when you go for a massage and they say, drink lots of water. You know, you've done some deep work, and it might even manifest in your dreams or not. But either way, just go easy on yourself. You know, you've got a lot of other people's backs, have your own back too. You know,
Yes.
Just it's a profound process, and you've demonstrated that in this letter writing we can connect with people that have left us or people that are here, people that will be leaving, people that we forgot to say, I'm sorry, or please forgive me, or I forgive you. So a letter seems like such a simple thing, and it's such a deep thing. And in a perfect world, it will inspire you to write a few others. Maybe a note to your kids, maybe a note to your wife. Sometimes you suddenly realize and you say, I want to be sure they know this. So thank you for indulging all of us and introducing us to Grandpa Charlie.
And my God, Frish, you are,
Well,
I
thank
tell
you.
you, you are amazing. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Well, I hope that inspires some questions and some observations. I want to tell you that Dan and I went another couple of rounds on his letters after that, and kind of changed the sequence a little bit and added a little bit, because even in that, this is pretty typical, in the conversation that you witnessed after I read him the letter and he said a few other things, I said, I think that needs to be in the letter. So I was on a very strict time frame for getting the letter to video for you all. And the letter kind of went a little bit further. And Dan, I wonder if you might want to just speak briefly to the process, and then we can open up our experience to experience and questions that are in our Zoom room.
Yeah, thank you. Frish, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're pretty quiet, but
Okay, let me volume up. Boom, 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 boom. How's that, better?
yes, thank you.
No, I was going to say the timing was perfect because, timing is never perfect, but the timing for this was perfect because, it was last minute. It was kind of rushed. It was, what do you have? And that's how that's life right there. That was perfect. So, there's nothing about being better prepared than for these type of things. Obviously, if it was a test, that's different, but this was so perfectly timed. And you did your advice to, take it slow. And, I remember going out that evening and, my wife and I went to some friends, and it was just a totally different feel. I felt so at ease and comfortable with everything. It was just nice. But yes, wow, and the changes that you made were just right on spot. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to say something. As I said earlier, there's all kinds of letters, and I hope that those of you who have joined us tonight have made a few notes to yourself of letters that you're thinking about writing. They can be long, they can be short. I'm going to give you a very short example in a little bit, and I'm just going to read a few excerpts from longer letters. But I want to begin with the first letter that I wrote, and I really have the great pleasure of thanking Dr. Dawn Gross, who is joining us tonight. Dawn was the midwife to my first midwife letter. This was for a young woman, 37 years old, on her third set of lungs. And she had a very clear message that she wanted to say. She had had an experience just shortly before this, and she knew that of all the things she wanted to say, she wanted to tell her children to be kind. We fleshed out the letter with a lot of other things that a mother needs to tell her children, including what some of their favorite books were and some of the things that they shared. But the soul of the letter was this: if there was one thing I really want you to remember, something that really matters to me, is that I want you to be kind. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world these days, and surely there will be things going on when you are older, prejudices, injustices, wrongful behavior. And my wish is that even if you don't agree with someone, I want you to be kind. And you know what? If you find it hard, then I hope you will think of me and find a way to be kind, because in my life, even when I made mistakes, people still treated me with kindness. And that has meant a whole lot more to me than people who have tried to persuade me or direct me. I hope you and your brother practice this too. Kindness and love rises above everything. But not every letter is a love letter. And I had the honor of working with a woman in her mid to late 50s who came to me through Hospice by the Bay. I have someone else in our group to thank, but I promised them that they would be anonymous if they wanted to be. So this, and I don't know what the letter is going to be when I get there. I just show up with my computer and we start. And I got a very long explanation that, not really an explanation, she was estranged from her parents and her parents would not see her. She had flown to New York to see them, they wouldn't see her. She had called them, she had written them, she had texted them, she had gone through every possible approach. And she said, we're estranged and I really want to write them a letter. So we talked for quite a while and we ultimately got to this, a fairly short letter, 3 short paragraphs, which I might even synopsize a little bit because of our time. But dearest Mom and Dad, it's difficult for me to tell you this, but I think you should know that I've moved into hospice care. There are no longer any treatments available that can cure my illness. I do not have years or months. I am physically very weak, cannot eat very much, and doctors say I may only have weeks. I know we have some differences, but I believe they are very small in relation to the love I know we have for each other. In the time I have left, I would like nothing more than to enjoy each other and to hear from you. My phone is near me at all times. There's no one I would rather get a call from than you. I have some loving things I want to share with you. I have many things I want to thank you for. It would be my greatest joy to hear your voices again. Please, let's put our differences behind us and put our love and connection in the foreground. Your loving daughter. And then we put her phone number. We worked on that letter for 2 weeks. On the 3rd week when I saw her, her plan had been to send it to a friend in New York, and that friend would deliver it to her parents' apartment building with flowers. When I saw her that 3rd week, she had not sent it yet. And I asked her a little bit about it, and then I suddenly realized that I would be in New York the end of that week. So in an unusual circumstance, I said to her, I can deliver your letter. So we printed it out, she signed it, we discussed the flowers, I ordered them, and 4 weeks to the day from our first meeting, I delivered the flowers and the letter to her parents. Saul, the doorman, signed for them, and as I walked away, I thought, I don't know. I knew everything to this moment, but I don't know what happens next. Will they accept the flowers? Will they read the note? Will anything happen? And 42 minutes later, sitting in the lobby of my hotel, I received a text from her daughter that said she had received a loving email. Pretty great. It gets better, but I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but it got much better, and she got the thing she wanted more than anything, which was to resolve what she considered intergenerational trauma. She felt that she could not have a good ending without that, and nobody, including her death doulist, thought that was possible. So it's amazing. And, but I want to give you an example of just like the simplest letter. I worked with a woman who, I don't know, in our session, I don't know how she did it. She wrote several letters, but at the end I said, don't you think you should write a note to your husband? And she said, well, yeah, maybe. And so she talked about him just briefly, but I had a window into the way that she thought. And she said, you know, I've already got this list of things for him of where everything is and all of that. I said, okay, well, let me try this out. How's this? Henry, on my desk, you will find an envelope with an inventory of things, where things are, the kind of letter people hope to find at a time of confusion and of loss. But how do I tell you the inventory of my heart and how important you have been to me and the ways you have loved me and made our lives what they are. So I could go on and on. Really, more importantly, is the letter that you have inside you. I don't know what our time is. I'm going to open this up to my co-hosts here. And for those of you who will join us after we finish the Q&A things, I'll take you through an exercise and you can start to find the way to your letter. And you can always find your way to me. So Naomi, guide me.
Thank you so much, Frish. That's just, my heart is just full. Dan Dunnigan, thank you so much for allowing us a peek into your heart and mind. And also a thank you again to Susan Sam. This has just been a really lovely evening. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. I do want to just end real quick with a quick question for you, Frish. If people want to work with you, how do they do it?
If you stay for the self-help process, you'll see my contact information, but it's My Lasting Letters. So if you go to My Lasting Letters, you'll find my website. It's very streamlined. And you'll find my email, which is mylastingletters@gmail.com. And I can tell you more and answer your questions. I do a lot of volunteer work, and many people also pay me, and the people who pay me allow me to do the volunteer work. I never want the money to stand in the way of a letter, so I don't want you to either.
Thank you. I feel like you're just a treasure that we found, and we're so grateful for you and your expertise and for sharing some of your process. So thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you again all for joining us. We hope to see you again at a future webinar.